Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very different video. This is going to be completely unscripted. All I'm going to be doing here is playing one of my old games that I made on the Nintendo Switch, and talking about game design, because I'm really passionate about game design. I feel it's something that needs to be talked about and experienced. It's genuinely a form of art, and I feel like, personally, it sometimes gets confused with the concept of making a game. Game design is not making a game. There are plenty of people who can game design who aren't programmers or people who even care about video games. Game design is just knowing how to make something fun, and if in the case of video games, something that is guiding. So let's talk about it. Before I start, I'm going to very quickly explain what this even is, in case you're unaware. So, in 2019, I believe, I'll look it up, or in 2021, Nintendo released this program called Game Builder Garage, which lets people make their own games for the Nintendo Switch. And this is one of the games that I made back then, and I'm just gonna be playing it and talking about game design. So, right off the bat, there's a lot of stuff here that I would have done differently if I was using a real game engine. Primarily, these instructions, everything has to be sort of physically in the world. I could have attached this to the face, but then I would have needed some script to hide it, and a script to show it for only the beginning of the game, and it would have taken more memory that I don't have. You can see there I have 509 out of 512 node on, which are memory units in this program, and so I was running thin. In fact, I had to cut down a bunch because I really wanted to implement a feature that I'll show later. But yeah, I would have done this differently. I would have touched this to the camera and then hit it after a little bit as a form of tutorial. But instead, it's all here, just displayed like that. So, left stick to move, right stick for the camera, B to jump, Y to spin jump, and ZR, or ZR, if I'm American, because I am American, is ZR to enter the pipe. But yeah, you can see here I have an apples counter. Let's say that game design, first of all, in terms of video games, needs to guide the player. It needs to guide the player and show them how to play the game. Especially if you don't have a direct tutorial, text tutorial that shows the player how to play the game and what to do, or no interest in Max at all. You need to learn how to convey that in other ways. Here's one. There's an apples counter. Immediately you're like, okay, apples are something in this game that requires a counter. What it actually is you need to collect apples, but you don't know that. You just know there's apples and there's a counter. Here it says exit and it says 10 needed. 10 of what? Well, the only counter you've seen so far is this apple counter, so now 10 apples, exit. Over here it says there are 12 apples. Every area plus the hub has 3 apples. Okay, now there are 12 apples. There's a counter for apples here. You need 10 to exit. Boom. Off you go. That's your mission. That's your goal. You know everything you need to know now to play the game. But let's look at how other things I do to guide the player. Right? You start. I'm going to restart the game actually so you can see. You start the game like this. At this camera angle. Immediately, that warp star over there, that's hidden. You can't see it. Immediately, you see the tutorial because it's right next to your player character, and then right afterwards, you see the apples because it's a similar placement to the tutorial. But also, the only real interesting thing that you can see, or probably the most likely first interesting thing you'll see, is that orange or that purple pipe on top of the house. Because it's high up. It's the one thing you can see that's closest to the middle of your screen. So immediately, you're gonna look for that. And this instruction says ZR to enter pipe, so you can enter pipes. So, you get up here, and you enter the pipe with ZR, and you get some text saying you're in Toy World. Immediately, you're like, okay, I'm in a world. There's all these pink balls bouncing around, I don't know what they do. If you touch one, you see that they kill you, and you get reset. You get that side effect around your screen to tell you that's something you don't want to happen. So you can go back, and immediately you have these fun, colorful blocks that guide your eyeballs, and that, like, use the use of color to guide the player, right? Using colors to guide the player. If this was all one color, the player wouldn't know where to look first. And in fact, it's all different colors. So instead of thinking, where do I look first, you think, look at everything. There's this bear up here. He's spinning. He's throwing the balls. Okay, this bear's messing me up. This bear's throwing some balls. When I touch the balls, I become dead. So I don't want these balls here. So you know about the spin move. Well, now, if you're smart, you might find out that the spin move also hurts things. Collect the apple, get this little animation, and then, boom, you get teleported back to the hub world. This tells you, if you haven't realized by at this point, this is a collectathon. This is a game in the style of Mario 64. Of course, not everyone has played Mario 64, but in the case that they have, they're going to see this and think, hey, this is like Mario 64. Using information from other games is a very viable way of doing game design as well. My gameplay might be a little bit messed up because I'm playing through a capture card, because I don't have two HDMI cables to feed it out back to the TV as well, and my monitor doesn't support HDMI input, so whatever. But, I need to talk about the design of this world actually, right? First of all, this is the tutorial world. Not just because I designed it to be easy, but I designed it so that it's the first entrance that you're going to see. It's the first entrance that you're going to see, and thus I made it the first world that you should go to. The first world in terms of difficulty, right? And like, if we look at it from far away, we can see that it's like, right? You can see here that it's a small island that you can explore and walk around, and there's stuff all over that you'll see soon enough, connected to a secondary linear challenge that leads to something, to some sort of end, right? Some sort of dead end. So that tells the player, hey, this area, I should explore this area, right? There's a lot of space to walk around in. It's very colorful, it's very nice looking, and they might notice this box. Well, how did they defeat the bear? By spinning. So maybe spinning has some sort of damaging or destructive property, and they'll find out they can break this box and find apple, right? They got the apple by beating the bear. You can also just get it off the bear's head, but we're talking unintended game design. If you find out that you can get the apple by killing the bear and getting it off its head, and that teaches you apples aren't going to be out in the open all the time, right? Sometimes they're going to be hidden behind challenges that you're going to need to clear before you can get the apple. And that box down there teaches you not everything is going to actually be a challenge. Some will just be hidden, and that will be the challenge. Here, as I said, this is an explorable area down here, but it's connected to a very eye-catching linear section that the player can traverse. Again, I'm going to try my best to play this, even though I'm working on a delay from the capture card. Alright, got it. And after they clear that, they're going to see an apple, That's a tough platforming section. I probably only did it on first try because I found out, because I've made the game, okay? But yeah, most people I see challenge on that for quite a long time. There's these two streamers that I really like that played this software. I think did I even name it? It's called Game Builder Garage. That stream games made in this, or they used to stream games made in this program, and I make sure to thoroughly watch both of their streams of playing this game before I did this video, because you need to see how players play your game in order to do game design. That's something you should consider. Of course, you can put it in front of friends and family, put your games in front of friends and family, see what they think, or just use your own knowledge as a video game player to think, how would you go about solving this if you didn't create the game? Obviously, that's harder because you did create the game, so you're already going to be biased, but still, right? Most people I see struggle on that, and if they struggle enough, they might think, well, maybe I don't need to go in the pipe egg. So if they think that, right, they'll be here in the hub world and they'll try looking around and, hey, there's a whole other world back there. What? That's crazy. And hey, there's something over here. And hey, there's something up there. I naturally expanded the game world because I immediately drew the player's eyes to this, and once they get sick of that difficult challenge, they'll instead look around, and the game world will naturally expand around them. Of course, some people will see it upon seeing right stick for camera, and they'll look around, but that's also expanding it. It's just happening sooner, right? It's happening right after you quote-unquote finish the tutorial. You're gonna look around and see this. So after you finish the tutorial, the game world expands, you know? You don't want to overwhelm players. You want to show them small challenges until showing them, hey, eventually, this is something you're gonna have to do. But yeah, eventually they'll get sick of that section maybe, and they'll look around, and they'll go over here maybe. Hey, there's a nice enticing yellow path leading to a green platform with some sort of interesting device on it, eh? There's a box, and it has a controller on it. And this has this nice ramp leading up to it. It's almost like I want to walk up it, eh? Oh, that poof, that's quite interesting. Huh, now this device seems to be wobbling a little bit, and whoa, what? Oh, this is motion control. What? That's crazy. I could have deciphered that because I put a controller on it. I put a controller on this to tell the player that this is a motion controlled item. And now I can use this to gesture in the video. That's pretty fun. But yeah, so what is this device, eh? This is a weird looking device. Well, the player might eventually learn. They might try other buttons, they might jump, and they'll realize that when you land back into this platform, your controllers reset. So you can reset controls by jumping and landing back again. But if they'll try the only other button that I've taught them so far is spin, and that's launch cannon. So now they find out that they need to shoot these things, right? They're right in front of the cannon after all, so it makes sense that you need to shoot them, eh? They're pretty far away because I want the player to actually have to aim. Alright, this one's excruciatingly far away actually. Take a looky here. There we go. And you get that poof effect and you see apples, right? Again, teaching the player, apples aren't always going to be out in the open. Sometimes you're going to have to look for them or find some sort of hidden puzzle in order to get them. And eventually that'll lead the player back to looking around, trying to find for secrets, and hey, they find an apple. This is an apple that players can access at any point in the game. This could be the first apple you find if you're lucky, but most people I see find it halfway through the game or at the end of the game, because throughout the whole game you keep getting reaffirmed and re-taught, hey, apples aren't always out in the open. Look around, look for puzzles, look for weird looking things, look around the space to find apples. And after that knowledge keeps getting reaffirmed and reaffirmed and reaffirmed into their head, they're going to reapply that to the beginning of the game and find that apple. Game design. Amazing. So yeah, they'll keep looking around the hub area, assuming that they are sick of that and don't want to try it, or already cleared it and they're looking around. Well, they'll find this, and again, if they've played Mario Galaxy, they'll probably recognize what this is, but they'll feel that when they get near, they'll get pulled towards it. That's interesting, eh? Well, what buttons do I have? I can jump. That doesn't seem to do anything. Well, let's try spinning. Boom. Lake World. Welcome to the next world. Immediately, you can tell this world's going to be different because there's water. I teach the player an actual game mechanic now, right? That world, that toy world, was only reliant on the player's immediate tutorial earned move set, and now immediately Lake World, I show them, hey, this is going to be different. Here's a gimmick that you haven't encountered yet, and I'm not telling you how to use it. If you've played video games, you probably know that jump is often also the swim button, but hey, if you don't, you'll eventually find it, because I only gave you a couple controls. But yeah, you'll see I have this nice orb of water next to this nice cylinder of water. So the player will think, hey, I gotta jump over here. And they'll see that, and whoa, it's moving. What? Oh, there's moving water. So they might look around while waiting for that to come back, and they'll see if there's other moving water. They'll see that fish carrying the bowl of water. There's that square of water, and eventually the cylinder will come back. And while they're looking at the cylinder, they'll see the boss there, eh? That's interesting. I'm drawing the player's eyes to a point of interest that they might want to come back to later by pointing in the direction of a simple mechanic, eh? By the way, I didn't plan all this out. This is just me designing it off the cuff, and now that I'm playing it, I'm talking about things that I'm thinking, hey, that is sort of an example of game design, right? There's a really simple mechanic there, and I show the player it, and as they're looking at it, there's something new behind it. Eh? That might be interesting. That might be something you want to incorporate into your games. Ooh, I barely made that. But let's assume that the player crossed that while this was stationary right here. They'd reach this clearing, eh? There's this big, interestingly shaped area of water, eh? And there's nothing here. Huh, that's weird. Well, if there's nothing here, maybe there's something underwater. There was nothing here, but the player's been taught that there's secrets abound in this world, so they know to look around. Hey, that's interesting. So, I've just been doing this, so I was playing. But yeah, they'll see these fish looking around, and they haven't seen anything like this before. So they'll probably try to do stuff with it. They'll probably try to land on it. They'll try to touch them. They'll try to hit them from beneath. They'll try to do a bunch of stuff. And again, I only showed the player a couple simple controls. This game is very simple. There's only like a couple controls. There's like 2, maybe 3 different controls. And like, they're not that complex. That means that every action the player encounters should follow those pretty basic controls, right? There's another apple there. They'll collect it, and they'll return back to the hub world. That's pretty cool, eh? But yeah. So, they'll, we can go back there. Should we go back there? Nah, let's go somewhere else. Right? They see this bridge over here, eh? This is different, right? Both of these worlds have had interesting entrances. Sure, this was a pipe, this was a star launcher, but these have been singular objects. Now over here we see a very large object. Oh yeah, these have been singular and small objects. Now over here we have a large object and a secondary object as well that points them in this direction, right? Starts counting down as we balance on this, and it starts spinning, so we're like, okay, we gotta balance on this thing, eh? If they fall off, they see the timer reset, so they're like, okay, I gotta bounce on this for the allotted time. Okay, that's interesting game. Interesting game design. Right? I made it 40 seconds because I feel like that's like a long enough time to where it could definitely get to the point where the player will just mess up on their own from their hubris. Or, you know, but it's also long enough to where, or short enough to where the player won't get sick, right? If it was 20 seconds, it would have been relatively easy. If it was like 30, it would have still been pretty easy. 30 would have probably been fine, but I chose 40 to still make it a challenge because they could very easily mess up near the end. I'm going to start walking this way now in order to make sure that I get over here in time. I can't hear the game audio because of, you know, I'm plugging this into OBS. But eventually, after they clear the time, they'll see this come down, and it comes down immediately. And it's facing away from the hub world because they're walking from the hub world onto the bridge, so they're probably going to still be facing this direction, so it comes down in front of the player, right? I'm not expecting the player to be able to look around while also doing a very, admittedly, kind of difficult challenge, right? This is probably something I might have changed if I designed this game now. I thought it was just clever and cute using the game assets. This game comes preloaded with a bunch of default assets, and one of them is this cheerleader girl model. And, you know, if people just know from regular pop culture they know the cheerleader triangle, but it's usually a triangle, right? This is like some sort of what's that shape called? I don't know, but it's some sort of quadrilateral. This isn't quite a triangle, eh? Well, if only we had one more person here to possibly finish the triangle. Oh, wait. I'm another person, eh? So they'll jump up here, and they'll think, huh, well, I am completing the triangle now, eh? Well, if they know from pop culture, they'll know that usually the top cheerleader does some sort of pose or something, right? Where they'll shake their pom-poms or something, right? They'll do something on top of the pyramid. They don't just stand there like everyone else. So, what's something that you can do while staying stationary? Oh, wait. Spinning. It's the only thing you can do. I use pop culture and just like general knowledge of the world to sort of guide the player as to how to solve that simple little puzzle, right? Like, you know, you can use that too as a form of game design, right? This is by no means like a complete course on game design. This is me just pointing stuff out and yapping about how I feel this game represents game design, and because I'm very passionate about it. I already explained it at the beginning. I think it's a genuine form of art that should be analyzed, and it gets very easily confused with making games, which it's not. It's a different thing. Over here we're in Clockwork World, and again in the scaling of difficulties, this is interesting, right? Because over there we have a small explorable world connected to a singular linear challenge, as opposed to here, over there in Water World or Lake World, I have a singular linear challenge that then branches off into two different sections. Either you go to the diver, which we'll go to in a little bit, or we go to the section that I just went to, and then from there you can ride the water up to this whole section with the tuna with the rotating water orb, or you can cross directly across. This already shows the player, hey, not every world is going to be set up like Toy World. This world is very large, right? It's also very separated because of the moving platforms, and it shows the player that this can be a combination of linear and non-linear. This is the culmination of that. This world is mostly linear, but there's a bunch of rotating platforms that inhibit your like ways that you can move, right? Because here you can only move straight across, or like this you can only move left and right. Over there's a rotating clock hand. There's a rotating clock hand that you have to stand on in order to move and progress, right? And then there's moving platforms that also, right, they like prohibit the player from moving in certain directions. So over there we have relatively linear but sandboxy design. Then we have also linear but branching design, and here we have linear branching design that blocks off at certain intervals, you know? And not every game has to be literal like intervals as in like intervals of time. It can be intervals as in, you know, maybe the player gets a power up later that they can come back to. It gets blocked off at certain intervals. That's fun because it makes the player think, right? At the end of the day, fun is subjective. But personally, how I feel fun is in game design is it should be challenging for the player, but in a way that at the end of the day will make them smile, right? It's like Mario Party. Mario Party can be challenging, but at the same time it sometimes isn't. Sometimes it's very easy, but they still smile at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, having fun is having fun. You can have fun in so many different ways and truly get on your own life experiences. What is something you find so fun in your own life experiences, and how can you convert that into an experience for other people, even if they don't have the same interests as you? That's probably the toughest part of game design. If you're basing it on your own life experiences of fun, people might not have the same interests as you. So you have to turn it into something that sort of still has the core of what you found fun, but can be more accessible to people. Now, over here, this rotating platform, clearly, this way has something, this way has something, this way has something, but you don't know what this is, right? Well, once again, as always, what's the only move you have in this game other than running and jumping and entering pipes, which is very specific. Entering pipes is a very specific move, so you know that you're most likely not gonna use it too often, other than if you see another pipe. So what's the only move you have left in this game? Spin. And Once again, teaching the player to look around, they'll be like, huh, well, what does this do? It's a very interesting object, eh? What does this do? What does this do? What does this do? Well, they know that it likely won't affect something in the other world, because so far nothing in a world has affected a different world other than the Apple counter and the hub world. So they'll look at this world, right? If they look over there, there's nothing. And if you look at the entrance or back here, well, they'll see that. They'll see a shadow over there. And that'll tell them to, you know, that'll tell them that something's happening over there. Even if it's hard to tell, they'll think, well, this is spinning and then it slows down, so maybe if I keep pushing it, it'll keep moving, right? So, what do you eventually find out? Well, after a while, it clicks into place, and it plays a click sound effect, and it stops moving backwards. That was a platform that you previously could not access, and now you can, right? So that'll draw the player over here, but then they'll see this horrendous platforming challenge, and they'll be like, oh, this is going to be pretty tough. They give up, that's fine, because of the way I designed this game is that there's so many different worlds, so if you give up at any point, go to a different world. It's that simple. I don't think I've collected an apple in a really long time, and that's fine. You have to explore to find apples. Obviously, I'm really good at this platforming challenge because I'm the game designer, so I need to be good at my own game. That's how that works. It's by law. I think I just broke the law. Let's go back. But yeah, again, let's assume that I got frustrated at the gear platforming section, right? Well, if I went back there, I would realize, well, this rotating, let's just go back there so I can better explain it, because it's going to be hard to explain it if people don't have good memory or we're just not looking right. Let's go. I wasn't paying attention. I was just thinking. But let's assume that I got sick of the gear section, or actually, let's assume that I failed the gear section, but I want to take another try at it. Well, I would come over here, and instead of getting distracted by that, because now I know what it does, I'm like, well, hey, I haven't even crossed over here yet, right? So that tells them to go over here, and they're like, oh, this looks crazy tough, right? I purposely made the bottom platform spin absurdly fast to tell them this is an interesting and difficult challenge, right? And it is. It really is. Even I struggle at it sometimes. I'll probably struggle at it too because that was actually really easy. Because I had lag and delay, but no, that was fine. But yeah, this shows that this is pretty tough to go through, and the absurdly spinning bottom section sort of tells you two things. It tells you this is going to be hard because that's spinning really fast, and secondly, it tells you you probably don't want to land on the bottom one. The top one's moving slower. Plus, the fact that the top one is sort of level with these platforms tells you probably want to go on this top one first. And then there's this big juicy button, and you might try spinning it, but there's nothing. But it, again, if you know just visual design. Or not even if you know visual design. I mean, like, if you've interacted with the world, you're gonna see this and think, that's a button. And it's higher than you, so you jump on it. And the camera whips around and shows you immediately, hey, this is moving slower. That's pretty cool. And behind you, this moving platform has started moving. If I was doing this in a more advanced game engine, I would have probably had a cutscene showing that this clock hand started moving slower and that this platform started moving on its own. But again, I at the very least have taught the player to look around and observe their surroundings, so that at the very least I have an excuse as to not implementing a cutscene, at least in this iteration of this game in this game engine. I'm going back to Lake World because I want to show I want to talk about something that I really personally enjoyed. At the end of this, I'll have a little bit explaining about the actual making of this game, as opposed to just talking about game design, because like I'm not a professor, I'm not a teacher, I'm just a kid, but I like to talk about stuff, so I'm trying my best to explain how I feel about game design and how I feel about this game that I made. I'm trying my best, but can't be perfect. But yeah, like the main thing that I just want to instill into your head about this my game, is teach the player, right? I immediately taught the player to look around in the form of a tutorial on how to move the camera, right? Like that might seem stupid, but I taught them that, right? I taught them to look around. Then in the toy world, I immediately drew their eyes to the most basic world, so they go to the most basic world, and in that world they learn to look around to navigate their surroundings. So again, it's telling them to look around, and then there's the secret apple inside of the box, so that tells them to look around. They then apply that to the hub world, and they can go to these other worlds where once again it instills them to look around. Literally, the core concept of this game, even though you might not really think about it too much, is just look around. Find the secrets. It's that simple, right? In this game where I have no access to text or cutscenes or dialogue or any sort of direct communication to the player, I had to teach them to look around and figure it out themselves, right? On top of using visual cues and visual design to teach them how to interact with the world, right? This section here, right? There's this tuna with this orb that is the same color as all the water you found. By the way, I immediately teach the player about water by throwing them into water as soon as they land into this world, right? If let's say if I had a big open area of this green grass and then a section of water in the middle, they might have thought it was ice, they might have thought it was a platform, they might have thought a whole bunch of things, especially because I can't do transparency here. But instead, I made the player directly land into water so that they know that it's water. This is the type of stuff that you need to think about in game design, man. I love game design. I love this game. I really do. I'm just waiting for this fish to come around. There's something else that I'm a little bit disappointed in, is the fact that I couldn't make the fish like maybe move faster if it wasn't at you yet. But at least the player gets to look around this world, and I'm really proud of that. This world is really big. Like probably not in terms of like walkable surface, but like in terms of just volume it takes up in total. Like a volume containing all of this map would be very large, right? Also, again, I can't hear the game, but I think I put a sound effect there after you clear all 3 divers to tell you, hey, something happened. And immediately, the water platform goes back to the central platform, or this initial platform, and you see an apple telling you to get the apple. But yeah, let's keep going. Now we're gonna go to the diver here because it's the last. Oh man, I died. Okay, fine. I'll go to the clockwork world. I was gonna say it's because it's the last star in the water world, so Also, I have a sign directly telling the player that there's only 3 apples per world and 3 in the hub world. But that tells them that there's 3 apples, 3 hobos. Oh, I think the way I just did that won't activate the music. Also, each world has unique music. I'm really proud of that. I could have cut that and saved on a lot of memory, but I didn't because I wanted this game to feel so nice. So what was I gonna say? Right. So yeah, like another thing is like, because I tell the player immediately there's 12 apples, it's like, first of all, I tell them that they only need 10 to exit, and they can get any 10. That means they can miss out on 2, and 2 is like not too many to miss out on. But like, you know, it could be like the toughest too. It could be these 2 of these that are in this world that they can miss out on. I actually haven't gotten any in this world yet. But yeah, that gear platforming puzzle, if I have one criticism to it, is that I would have probably made it also slow down with the clock, because that would have told the player, not only, you know, since it's clockwork, it's a machine that works together like clockwork. So slowing down the clock should slow down the gears and make this easier. But, oh well. It's still a nice little platforming challenge, and it's sort of a callback to the initial challenge over there, eh? And yeah, I'm really proud of this game. I'm trying my best to not talk about my game until the end, and you'll see why I don't want to talk about it until the end. But you know, I'm trying to talk game design here. Okay. Another thing I'd probably complain about in my own game is that the diver is a really dumb boss fight, because you need to hit him from the side, but I'm pretty sure all these edges are too far away to actually get to his side. So usually what I always do is just try my best to jump onto his head and then fall down as I hit his side. So like this. Okay, no, like this, like that, exactly. And immediately after you kill him, the water clears up and you get dropped down into it. So that tells you, hey, you cleared up the water, go into it, and then you see the apple, so you get the apple. Once again, I tell the player that they've cleared something by showing them this little clear icon, and that's pretty neat. I'm only missing 2 apples, and I'll show you them, and I'll talk about them, because these I definitely have a lot to say about. Oh, actually, I just realized something that's actually really interesting to point out. In terms of difficulty scaling, again, I've mentioned multiple times how Toy World is supposed to be the first world, Lake World is the second, more open and a little bit harder world with a really hard diver boss fight, and then Clockwork World is definitely by far the hardest in terms of just how many apples are considered difficult. But something that I realized is that in both across the game so far, every platform you've encountered has been on a delay, right? Down on the hub world, the elevator that takes you up to Clockwork World goes up, stays up for a little bit, goes down, stays down for a little bit, then goes back up, stays up for a little bit, so on and so forth. Over there, the rotating platforms have been pretty slow and pretty smooth. In Lake World, there's so many moving water platforms that move smoothly in circles, or the square or the cylinder water platforms that, you know, move a little bit, then stop, then move the other way, and then stop. Here, that platform over there just bounces back and forth. it doesn't have a stopping point. And I think that's interesting, because to me that tells me that's a harder version of that, right? Also, here you're encouraged to stay closer to the center, because if you pay attention, you'll see that you don't fit under that platform. So if you stayed out to the edge, you would, you know, get hit. Also, you're probably gonna think to go down here, because, you know, this probably isn't just for aesthetic purposes. This game has told you, it's already taught you so many times, and so many times, to look around and to look for secrets. So you're probably gonna think, this isn't for nothing, right? So what's over here? Oh hey, there's an apple over here, and this platform's thinner, so I probably can fit under it. But I'm not gonna fit under it if I go over there. So you need to time it perfectly to start running to the edge as you cross that platform that you can't get to. Oh, and make sure you don't get hit on the way back. And then you have to line up to get the apple, and boom, you got it. And then you fall off, of course. I have one more apple remaining. It's just the one across the bouncing platform that as I mentioned, every platform so far has been smooth movement, right? Either it moves and stops and then turns the other way, or it rotates in a nice smooth way. This one just bounces back and forth, and that makes it harder to track. Clockwork once again showing like ways of, you know, the game just being harder, even down to the minute details, other than just enemy spam. There's like no enemies in this game. The only enemies in this game are the quote-unquote boss fights, which Clockwork World doesn't even technically have a boss fight. What I mean by boss fight is there's a couple elements that share sort of similarities across all these worlds. In Toy World, it was the bear that was shooting balls out that you had to defeat to get the apple, and once you defeated him, he stopped shooting the balls out. Over here was the diver that was polluting that water over there and also shooting balls out, and once you killed him, you can go into the water, get the apple, and he was no longer polluting it and no longer shooting out balls. And over here, it was the clock that was moving super fast, that once you hit the switch, it stopped moving super fast and it let you access other apples. There is something in each world that you activate, that you do once, it stays on permanently, and it changes the world and gives you access to a new apple. And Clockwork World once again has the most like intricate version of this, by, you know, letting you cross the gap way easier, and also giving you access to this apple under here, right? While yes, the change of this activates the moving platform over there, letting you access that apple over there on that platform, it doesn't directly lead you to the one that's related to the change, right? All the other ones were directly related to the change, right? The bear had the apple, the diver had the apple. Here, slowing the clock down, the clock, yes, has an apple, but it's not the one that you're being guided to. You have to look for it, once again, using all the skills you keep getting reiterated throughout the whole game to look around and look for secrets. It's truly game design is pretty much just reiterate the same details to the player so that they get it in their damn head and can play the game on their own without you holding their hand. It's all about holding their hand until the right time and then letting go. Speaking of letting go, we're about to let go all barriers and hop into the UFO! Let's go, I love the UFO. This is something that I put into a later version of the game where I scoured everything I could find to cut down on memory and put in a UFO controller over here so you could explore the world. And now, that is Note on Galaxy. Man, I love this game a ton. I even put like just random, you know, useless stuff in here. Like I put a launcher over here that you can shoot out a bunch of bouncy balls. They do get destroyed sometimes, but they can bounce around if the terrain is not destructible. And like, you know, that's really cool. Let's go over to Clockwork World, and I want to talk about the actual making of this game, because if you're not in the Game Builder Garage community, you might be a little bit confused by like a bunch of things that I'm about to say, but pretty much this software is super limited. So one of the main goals I really wanted to, one of the main ideas that started this project was, I want to make the game that feels most Game Builder Garage, right? Game Mode Garage has a ton of built-in assets like this Joy-Con model, or this UFO model, or the player model, or this ring model that's used for the exit, or the cheerleader model, or the tuna model up there, or the diver model, or the bear model, or the crate model. And I want to do something that used them primarily, you know. I still use some custom assets like this clear logo that I drew, or the star icons, but primarily I want to use purely Game Mode Garage assets. And after that, I thought, well, you know, one of the most Game Mode Garage games is a collectathon. I think one of the first games that or actually the final game that they teach you to make in the like tutorial part of this game is a game where you run across green platforms and brown bridges to reach an apple at the end. So I took that idea of, you know, Game Mode Garage assets, getting apples, turned it into a collectathon, and then it just went from there. There's a lot of, you know, stuff that I really like about this game. I think it just looks really nice. It just fits the vibe of Game Mode Garage so well. Even though it's not using like a space background, I think it feels really spacey because of just how like distinct the different quote-unquote worlds are. I love the theming of these worlds. It's like in my mind, you know, I'm not sure about other players, of course, but in my mind, I truly like can visualize how I would do these worlds if I had, you know, infinite budget to do like really nice graphics. I would make Toy World really feel like plasticky toy paradise. I would make Lake World have algae and plants and feel like a lakeside. I'd make Clockwork World feel like Tick-Tock Clock from Mario 64. And I'd make the Hub World feel like the Hub World from Mario Galaxy 2 with really nice, you know, grass and concrete and beige concrete and terrain and all that. I really like that. And, you know, I just really like this game, man. And I like talking game design. That's probably the end of this video. I'm just gonna say a couple things for people who are like super fans of this game. I know some people really like this game, and I'm glad about that. And if you don't like this game, that's fine too. In fact, tell me why you don't like this game. If you are able to tell me why you don't like this game, that means I can learn, and I can make a better game that might appeal to you and might appeal to just in general more people. And that's always nice. I was gonna say, for people who are really interested, there's actually 2 cut worlds that I really want to include before I realized 3 is enough, and also I'm running out of memory, which were originally, I think actually Clockwork World was like, it was kind of rushed, and I personally think you can kind of tell, because it's mostly flat as opposed to the rest, which have a lot of vertical elements to them, kind of. But originally, Clockwork World was supposed to be actually one of the most vertical worlds, because it's supposed to be, I don't know if it was called Forest, or I think it was called Tree World, where it was going to be one giant tree in the middle, and then a bunch of platforms that take you spiraling upwards. But then I realized that it would have been really big for this game. It wouldn't have fit with the rest of the theming, and I already had a lake sort of grassy world, and then this hub grassy world. So I cut it on top of, now that I say it out loud, I think Tree World would have felt too linear compared to the rest of the worlds, which have a lot of different paths for you to go on. And then another concept is, this one has a funny story, because it was never too much of a consideration, but it was pretty much, I asked one of my teachers, I believe in 8th grade, I was in 8th grade at the time, and I asked them, what should one of the worlds in my game be? And then I told them, you know, I have Lake World, I have Toy World, and then I have Clockwork World, right? Simple themes that can be represented in basic colors. And then he said, what about a like instrument world? And I was like, oh, that's cool. And originally I did want to make one. In fact, I started prototyping a version that did have it, and it was going to be, I believe, right over here, underneath the Clockwork World and the Lake World. It was going to be right, I'm trying to visualize it, screenshot the memory, and right here. I think right here would have been the starting point, and it would have been pink primarily, because there's not a lot of pink here. So it would have been pink platforms. Over here I was going to have a large pink ring that you would have ran around in, and the middle would have been a disc player that you could have stood on, and if you ran on it, you would have spun it with your feet, and if you spun it enough, it would play a song, and as you spun it up, actually, I'm not, okay, I assume my audio is captioned correctly, but if it didn't, each world has its own distinct song. And right now it's playing all of them combined to celebrate you 100%ing the game. But what I would have done for Music World is I would have made it so that the music would have been either very slow or completely silent, but as you spun up the music record in the middle of the area, which would have been really hard to get to, you would have had to do a ton of platforming to get to the middle there, or well, not too much, but you would have had to do some platforming to get to the middle of the area, spin up the music player, and as it spun up, the song would start playing, and eventually it would fully play on its own, and an apple would appear, and that would kickstart the world. So now the platforms that you just took to get to the center are now moving, and then instruments all over the place would start moving and playing and doing their actions, and it would have been really cool. And honestly, if I ever make a sequel to this game, whether it be in Game Builder Garage or not, question mark, that will probably be an idea I use, because I really like that idea. It's really cool. Yeah, that's all I wanted to do today. I just want to talk about this game, have fun with it, and it's cool. And this game's over an hour long. This game's over. I could not. I don't think I could. I think I could count on like one hand games that I know in Game Builder Garage that are almost an hour long and are only across one game. Because there is a feature here where you can swap to a different game, and a lot of people use that as like different sections of a singular game, and I didn't. I very much did not want to do that, not because I don't like the feature. I love that feature. That's a great feature. But I really want to do it as a single package experience, and I'm so glad that I was able to get it almost an hour long with just one game. One game, man. You can make truly incredible things with limited tools, and sometimes limitations breed creativity. They truly do. If I had a true game engine to work with, I wouldn't know where to start. Because I was limited, I was immediately like, okay, what's something small I can make? How about a collectathon? How about a collectathon with only 3 worlds? How about a collectathon with 3 themed worlds and a couple secrets in the hub world, eh? That's simple. Alright. I hope you guys enjoyed me just talking game design and yapping about my own game. I really like my game. If you want to play it, I'll leave the download code. If you know how Game Builder Garage works and how to download games, I'll leave the download code in the description. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. Let me know that you want more from this. More like this. Alright, bye.